Alright, Goku in DC, Season 3, Episode 12. Goku returns while Superman is fighting. So let's get into it. The frozen world of the Arctic screamed in protest as two suns of Krypton clashed upon its surface. Superman and Zod, a blue and black streak against an endless white, met in the center of a vast glacier with a cataclysmic pop that defied all natural law. The force of their impacts did not merely crack the ice, it vaporized it. A concentric shockwave of pure kinetic energy radiated outwards, not as a sound, but as a wall of invisible annihilation. The ancient compressed ice, millennia old and harder than metals, shattered and then turned into fine, shimmering mist that hung in the air like a diamond dust blizzard. The very bedrock beneath the ice cap groaned, shifting tectonic plates as it protested from the unnatural violence that was occurring above. Superman had his jaw set with a grim determination as he pushed against Zod's furious charges, his boots carving trenches in the ice. Zod met the force with equal fury, with his own muscles straining as he sought to overpower the son of Jor-El, and for a single suspended moment, they were locked in a perfect, terrible equilibrium of power before the ground beneath them completely gave away, surrendering to the unimaginable forces it was never meant to contain. The shattering of the glacier plunged them into a world of shocking, absolute cold and crushing silence. The Arctic water, a darkness so complete it was like ink, swallowed them whole. Yet the battle did not cease, it merely changed its form. Their movements, which in the air were supersonic, were now slightly slowed to brutal, powerful strikes, as each kick and punch created massive air bubbles and powerful currents that churned in the depths. Zod was disoriented for a microsecond by the sudden shift, and he swung a wild, powerful haymaker that Superman deftly dodged, the force of the blow creating a shockwave that stunned a school of unfortunate fish that were yards away. Seizing the opening, Superman planted both feet against Zod's armored torso. With the powerful thrust of his legs, amplified by the water's resistance, he propelled the general downward into the lightless abyss like a torpedo. Superman then used the recoil to rocket back towards the shimmering hole of light that was above. He burst from the water, landing back on the fractured ice shelf with a skid, steam rising instantly from his heated body. He took a precious second, chest heaving, not from fatigue, but from concentration, to process the points of action, his mind calculating trajectories, weaknesses, and the dire need to keep his fight away from a world ill-prepared for its fury. The ice exploded upward, not with a crack, but with a deafening boom, as Zod breached the surface, not like a man, but like a missile. He landed 10 yards away with an impact that sent new fissures spiderwebbing across the terrain. His posture coiled and ready, but his demeanor strangely analytical. He did not immediately charge. Instead, he rose to his full height, and his eyes were burning with cold intellect alongside the inherent rage. "Kal-El," he barked, his voice cutting through the howling wind. "It is obvious that your prolonged exposure to this system's yellow sun has gifted you with a greater raw power. Your cells drink its energy like a parched beast. I can feel the depth of your reservoir surpasses my own by a significant margin." He took a deliberate step forward, his combat stance shifting into something more refined, more deadly-like. "But power without purpose and strength without technique makes for a blunt weapon of war. You fight with the passion of a child protecting his toys, not with the disciplined art of a warrior bred for conquest. That lack of finesse, that hesitation to strike, to kill, that will be your eventual downfall on this field of battle." Superman's face was a monument of resolve, and it did not flicker. He dismissed Zod's psychological warfare, allowing his actions to be his sole retort. In a span of time too small for any human eye to register, he became a blue and red blur, closing the distance between them in a speed blitz meant to end the conversation decisively. The air itself tore at his passage, but Zod, a general who had spent a lifetime honing his skills in wars he participated in amongst the saiyans, was prepared. He did not try to match the speed directly. Instead, he read the angle of Superman's charge, the set of his shoulders. As Superman lunged, Zod dropped his center of gravity, crouching low like a matador, allowing the bull to pass. Superman's world-ending punch whistled through empty air, and in that split second of overexertion, Zod uncoiled. His fist, driven by perfected technique and Kryptonian might, buried itself deep into Superman's gut. It wasn't just a punch, it was precise, a concussive shockwave that bypassed the muscles and struck at the very core of his being. The air exploded from Superman's lungs in a pained gasp, his eyes widening in shock as an agony he seldom felt ripped through him, forcing him to keel over, utterly staggered. The path to victory was then noticed, and Zod was a soldier who never hesitated to press for it. Superman doubled over, vulnerable and gasping for breath that wouldn't come, so Zod pivoted on the ball of his foot and channeled all the momentum of his defensive crouch and the upward force of his devastating gut punch into a vicious, spinning kick. His boot connected with the side of Superman's jaw with a sickening crack that echoed across the desolate ice plains. The force of the blow was catastrophic, snapping Superman's head to the side and lifting his feet clean off the ground. He was launched horizontally like a discarded doll, his body carving a trench into the ice before crashing into the base of a massive, jagged ice spire that towered over the landscape. The impact was the final straw for the precariously balanced structure, and with a deep groaning roar, the entire spire shuddered, fractured, and then collapsed inward, a mountain of crystalline blue ice and snow crashing down upon the Man of Steel, burying him under thousands of tons of frozen rubble. For a moment there was only a sigh of the wind and the settling dust of ice. Zod stood triumphant, his chest heaving. Then a faint red glow emanated from the heart of the massive ice pile. It intensified, burning with the fury of a miniature sun. Superman's heat vision, focused and searing, melted a tunnel through the crushing weight above him as if it were butter. He emerged not with a roar but with a silent, terrifying fury, his eyes glowing with residual energy. He saw Zod, who smirked, expecting a repeat of the same reckless charge, and Zod braced, expecting another straightforward attack he could counter. And as Superman rushed him, Zod threw the same precise punch, aiming for the chin, but this time Superman didn't even bother trying to dodge. He tanked the blow, his head snapping back slightly, but his body an unyielding wall of hardened solar energy. The shock on Zod's face was palpable. Before he could retract his arm, Superman's hand shot up, grabbing Zod's wrist and anchoring him. Then he drove his own knee upward with a piston-like force, connecting squarely with Zod's chin. The impact lifted the general clean off his feet, sending him spinning upward into the air, utterly disoriented. Gravity began to reassert its claim on Zod's airborne form, but Superman would not allow him a merciful descent. In a flash, he was airborne himself, intercepting Zod's upward trajectory. His hand clamped around Zod's boot like a vice, and with a grunt of effort that was pure focused power, Superman used his own flight and immense strength to alter Zod's momentum. He swung the general in a brutal short arc, putting the entire force of his body into the movement, and Zod became like a living whip, a black-clad projectile that Superman slammed back down toward the earth with an apocalyptic force. The resulting impact was not a crash, but an earthquake of sorts. The frozen landscape was already battered and fractured, and it finally gave up its structural integrity. A massive web of cracks exploded out from the point of impact. Some fissures were yards wide, splitting the ice shell for miles at every direction. Zod lay in a shallow crater of his own making. The wind knocked from him, the ice groaning and shifting ominously under the new massive fault lines. Staggered but not beaten, Zod pushed himself up from the crater. His pride was wounded, more deeply than his body. His eyes, burning with humiliation and pure rage, began to glow a hellish, intense red. The air around them sizzled. Recognizing the threat, Superman's own eyes began to ignite in response, a brighter, more vibrant crimson. And there was no hesitation. Two twin beams of incalculable thermal energy lanced across the broken field, meeting in a dazzling collision mid-air. The point where they met was a miniature star, splitting and cracking with released energy, casting stark, dancing shadows across the ice. And the sheer heat radiating from their struggle was immense. The perpetual ice beneath their feet began to melt instantly, turning into a deep slush and then a boiling lake. Steam rose in a thick fog, and Zod strained, pouring every ounce of his power forward. But Superman, fortified by a lifetime of yellow sun energy, stood firm, and inch by inch, Superman's superior being began to push Zod's back. And with a final tremendous surge, the scarlet energy overwhelmed Zod's, striking him square in the chest and blasting him off his feet, sending him skidding across the newly formed water before he sank beneath the waves of the Arctic Ocean. Submerged in the waters that were paralyzingly cold for most organisms, Zod's military mind, trained for tactics and survival, pushed past the pain and anger that he felt. He needed an advantage, a distraction. Surrounded by steam and water, he wouldn't win another beam struggle. His senses scanned the underwater landscape. There, a massive, dagger-like shard of ice sheared off during their battle floated just beneath the surface, barely hanging onto a glacier. A plan formed instantly. With a powerful kick, he broke the colossal shard free, and with all his strength, he hurled it up and away from his position. It sailed through the air like a makeshift javelin. On the surface, Superman's super hearing caught the distinct sound of a large object that was breaking the water surface behind him. His head snapped around, expecting a renewed aerial assault from Zod. Seeing the massive ice projectile, his instincts took over. His eyes blazed, and a precise lance of heat vision lanced out, vaporizing the ice shard mid-air into a cloud of harmless steam. It was a split-second distraction that Zod had gambled on. The water erupted directly behind Superman. Zod, having used the thrown ice as the perfect diversion, burst forth with speed Superman had not anticipated. Before the Man of Steel could even turn back, Zod's arms were snapped around his torso in a crushing bear hug, lifting him off the ground. "Enough of this barren wasteland, Kal-El," Zod snarled into his ear, his voice dripping with malicious intent. With a powerful thrust of his legs, Zod shot into the sky, not straight up, but on a specific calculated trajectory southward. The air screamed as they broke the sound barrier, the frozen Arctic rapidly shrinking beneath them. Zod's grip was ironclad. His purpose was clear. He smirked, feeling Superman struggle against his hold. "You fight to protect this planet," he roared over the wind. "Then show me the lowly organisms that you fight for, and I'll show you what their cities will look like from the inside as they crumble." Their supersonic flight ended as violently as it began. Zod angled his body, using Superman as a living battering ram. They tore through the upper atmosphere and slammed directly into the side of a gleaming Metropolis skyscraper. Glass, steel, and concrete exploded inward in a cataclysmic shower of debris. The sound was horrific, a scream of tearing metal followed by terrified screams of office workers who moments before were living a normal day. Zod hovered amidst the swirling dust and falling rubble, untouched and triumphant. And below him, Superman shook off the impact, his priority instantly shifting. A groaning support beam was about to crush a group of civilians huddled under a desk. In a flash, he was there, his back taking the immense weight. "Run. Now," he yelled. As the people scrambled to safety, Zod descended slowly like a vulture eyeing fresh corpses. He watched his foe prioritize these insignificant ants, a look of utter contempt on his face. "Your sentiment is weakness," he stated, his voice cold and echoing the ruined office. "You cannot save them, Kal-El. You will not even be able to save yourself." Meanwhile, in the halls of justice, the very fabric of reality tore open with a sound like a shattering crystal. From a swirling red vortex of energy, Goku stumbled out, landing lightly on the surface of the floor. He blinked, adjusting his gi. "Whoa, that was a rough trip. Hey, Raven, you feel that? Felt like we hit a speed bump." He turned, expecting to see his magical companion, but found only empty air. Behind him, the portal was shimmering, and there was Raven, her hand pressed against an invisible barrier that rippled like a heat haze just beyond the portal's exit. "Raven?" Goku asked, confused. She met his gaze, her usual calm replaced by grim realization. "Goku." The dead zone's conduit is damaged more profound than I thought, she said, her voice strained. The rules are broken. It seems it will only allow one person to exit if another enters. The portal won't last much longer either. Goku's face fell, his fist clenching. No way! I'm coming back for you, he said, stepping toward the closing rift. Raven shook her head. There's no time. Go help our friends. I will see if I can find another way out. Just go. Alright, that'll be the end of the episode, man. Like I told you guys in my community notes, I already got 3 other episodes done. I just got to get the drawings, and then they'll be out shortly. So, yeah, be sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that. Peace.